Chris Philp.
Thank you, Chairman. Just to briefly continue on this point about the budget contributions, the figure of 14 billion, roughly speaking, which you're quoting, does that include or exclude payments made by the European Union back to UK businesses and, for example, farmers?
Well, I revert back to what I said. It depends on the EU you're talking about, but no, that's the gross contribution.
Okay. So when you say there would be a saving of approximately 12 or 14 billion, you are assuming a saving to the Exchequer, the UK Treasury. You're assuming that all of those payments currently being made, for example, to farmers, just stop.
No.
Then how is it a saving?
It's up to the Treasury to decide how to deploy the funds it's now got, isn't it?
But for there to be a saving, that expenditure would have to just... For the 14 billion to be realised as a saving to the UK Exchequer, those payments, which add up to some approximately 4 to 5 billion, currently made, for example, to UK farmers, they would have to just cease, wouldn't they? Otherwise, the saving, if they continued, the saving wouldn't be 14 billion. Hang on, just a question. If those payments continued, the saving wouldn't be circa 14 billion, it would be circa 8 billion.
That's correct.
So for your 14 billion to be accurate, you are having to assume that all of those payments currently made by the EU on science research grants, farm subsidies, would cease.
No, it's up to the Treasury to deploy the cash it has available into which areas it wants to deploy it, doesn't it?
You're saying they're not going to deploy it at all.
No,
you're saying they're
well, implicitly you're.
Not even explicitly. I think that's what you're saying.
Yeah. No, I don't think that's right. I think you're putting words into our mouth. That's not what we're saying. The 14 billion figure, net of the rebate, that is the gross saving to the country, and then the government of the day can choose how to deploy it.
So would you?
That is a perfectly legitimate
provided you
statement.
explain clearly in your rubric, that's what the figure means. I suppose that might be correct. Sorry.
Yeah. So is it your position that the government? Well, clearly, if your 14 billion figure to be correct, if that is a saving to the Exchequer, you must be assuming all of those payments cease. Otherwise, the figure is not 14 billion.
As I say, I repeat what I just said. You're putting words into our mouth.
I'm not. The 14 billion is your figure.
No, but it's then what you do with it. The 14 billion is then open to the government of the day to invest and spend as it sees fit. That is a completely different thing from what we've just suggested.
Would you, as an elector, as a member of British society, would you wish to see the payments to, for example, farmers and the payments made to fund science work continue or discontinue?
And not only continue, but actually they could indeed increase, because we'd be able to make those payments more directly without the huge bureaucracy and unnecessary cost and waste that goes on in the European Union. So actually people could benefit by more rather than less.
Then were we to withdraw, and were those payments to continue as you're saying they should, the saving to the Exchequer would not be 14 billion, it would be 7, wouldn't it?
Well,
I mean,
I think it's a slightly nonsensical argument. You could choose to reduce the foreign aid budget by 5 billion to pay the farmers if you wanted. It's a Treasury decision. To link the two is irrelevant. I mean, it's a saving. You decide what to do with it. You're the parliamentarians.
You're saying you would do with it as is currently being done with it?
Well, first of all, farming wasn't invented in 1975. It was there beforehand. And how
the subsidies were
how Parliament chooses to subsidise certain industries. I mean, the steel industry is a good example. You've chosen not to subsidise it. You've chosen to subsidise farming, you've tried to subsidise different things. You work out your own priorities.
And let's be clear, we subsidised farming before 1975, and we will continue to subsidise farming after we leave the European Union. The great thing is, it's within our gift, it's within our choice, and we can spend the money wisely.
Well, I mean, that point is correct, but and I think we need to move on, but the fiscal saving, given what you've said, that you would continue the farm subsidies, the saving to the Exchequer would not be 14 billion, it would be 8 billion, albeit that we control that money.
I think the implication from what was said is that it's a saving of what we send to Brussels, that we can then determine and take control as to how we spend it ourselves.